Good day, everyone. Today we are going to talk about solving one-step equations using multiplication and division. But before we begin, let's talk about inverse properties. In an earlier video, we talked about inverse properties. So we said that the inverse property of addition is subtraction, and the inverse property of subtraction is addition. So today we're going to talk about the inverse properties of multiplication and division. So the inverse property of multiplication, of course, is division, and the inverse property of division is multiplication. Now, why do we talk about inverse properties? Well, when solving one-step equations, we use the inverse properties to undo the original property so that we can solve the equation. Okay, so let's go into solving equations. Now, remember in our prior video that solving a one-step equation means that we want to use the inverse property to isolate the variable or get the variable by herself on one side of the equation. So, our very first problem that we're going to deal with is negative 6x equals 48. Now, if you remember from our video on on variables, whenever we have a variable beside a number, that means multiplication. Okay, so the default for one-step equations and variables would be multiplication. So in this example, negative 6 times some number equals 48. Well, let's remember that when we first started this journey on solving equations, that we have an imaginary line going through our equal sign, and we have two sides of our equation. We have a left side of the equation and we have a right side of the equation. And remember, whatever we do on one side of the equation, we must do on the other side of the equation to keep the equation balanced. Well, in this case, we now have 6 times some number is equal to 48. So the inverse property of multiplication is division. So what I'm going to do to solve this equation is I'm going to divide by negative 6x. Now, because I'm dividing by negative 6x on the left side, I must divide by negative 6 on this right side. Now, when I divide negative 6 by negative 6, this will cancel each other out and leave me with 1x. 48 divided by negative 6. Well, if you remember, a positive divided by a negative will give me a negative answer. 48 divided by 6 will give me 8. Now, I can actually check my work, and this is why I love algebra. So let's check our work. Negative 6 times negative 8. Well, a negative times a negative gives me a positive, okay? So 6 times 8 is going to give me 48. And that is what we started off with, so I got my problem right. Let's look at a division problem. How about W divided by 7 equals 3? Well, if you remember by an earlier lesson, whenever we see fractions, I want you to think of division, because this means W divided by 7, okay? W divided by 7. Well, the inverse property of division is multiplication. So what I want you to do is I want you to multiply by the reciprocal. So if your 7 is in your denominator, your 7 will become the numerator. And because we multiplied 7 on this side of the equation, we need to go to the second side of the equation and we need to multiply it by 7. Okay, well, 7, this is going to simplify each other out and leave you with 1W. 3 times 7 is 21. So we know that W is equal to 21. We can check our answer. Let's substitute 21 in for W. 21 divided by 7 is equal to 3. Let's do a few more problems. How about 7 equals y divided by negative 10. Again, it doesn't matter which side of the equation that I have my variable, it still is going to be done the same way. So our imaginary line through our equal sign. On this side of the equation, y is being divided by negative 10. The inverse of dividing by negative 10 is multiplying by negative 10. So because I multiplied by negative 10 on that side, I need to multiply negative 10 on the left side, sorry. These two are going to simplify themselves out. So you have y equals negative 70. I can come over here and check my work. Negative 70 divided by negative 10. A negative and a negative will end up with a positive. 70 divided by 10 is 7, and that is what we started off with. So I got my answer right. Let's do another problem. Let's do 52 equals 4 times some number. Again, you don't have to draw the imaginary line, but I'm just putting it here for educational purposes. Okay? 4 times some number is 58. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So y equals 4 divides into 52 13 times, so y equals 13. Some teachers would like you to rewrite this as y equals 13 because we read from left to right. I can check my work. 4 times 13 is equal to 52. So I got it right. Let's do a little bit more complicated problems. And yes, I know this topic is about one-step equations, but technically these are one-step equations. So let's look at this. 7x minus 3x equals 24. Now, these two terms, as we learned in previous video, are like terms, so I can combine them using regular operations. Well, I have 7 x's, and I'm going to take 3 x's from them. That leaves me with 4 x's equals 24. Now, I have my one-step equation. 4 times some number is equal to 24. I can go ahead and divide by 4. And so x equals 6. Okay, I can check my work still. 7 times 6 minus 3 times 6. 7 times 6 is 42 minus, don't know why that happened. 7 times 6 is 42 minus 18 is equal to 24. I got it right. Okay, let's look at another problem. Here we go. Let's pull in the distributive property this time. Negative 4 times 9g is equal to 252. Now, as we know, whenever we have a number outside of parentheses, that operation is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply negative 4 times 9g, and that gives me negative 36g equals 252. Inverse property of multiplying by 36 is dividing by negative 36. And so g is going to equal negative 7. So I can check my work. Negative 4 times 9 times negative 7 is going to give me, 9 times 7 is going to give me negative 63. And negative 4 times negative 63 is going to give me a positive 252. I got it right. Let's do one more problem and then I will let you go. This time I'm going to give you a problem with z divided by 6 plus 11. If you would like, why don't you pause the video here and see if you can figure out how to do this without me Now, because I have 6 plus 11, can I combine those like terms? So I'm going to get negative 3 equals z over 17, or z divided by 17. The inverse property of multiplying or divided by 17 is multiplying by 17. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 17. These are going to simplify each other out. And so I have z equals negative 51. I can check my work. Negative 3 equals negative 51 divided by 17. And so I got my answer right. Okay? Now, again, most teachers would like you to rewrite this as z equals negative 51. If you have enjoyed my video, please click like and subscribe to my channel below. Thank you very much.